The problem is in relation to all this that the people simply grow too old or doesn't grow too old at all. And the problem is that when the bankers, those with money, decided that that they wanted to fuck everything up, it comes because of impotence. That's pretty much the basic problem. The hooker, the woman, the first hooker came by natural economics. We should go that way and say, okay, you have a society. Strangers appear because of not overpopulation but more population, and suddenly you can't rely on usual means and methods of procreation and getting laid, which is what it's all about. It's all about discharging your strength through about killing. Sex is killing, basically. When you, it's not fuck her like you hate her, it's fuck her like you're gonna kill her if she doesn't do as you say. And the point is that when you can't kill with your penis in a way where you ejaculate into the vagina and mouth and anus of a woman or whatever suits you, then you become a killer, because the testosterone that is forming our hunter inside of us is basically equals to murder extraordinaire. So basically, in the old times, you had like, hey man, you're really cool. Yeah, I think you love it. I love you too, girl. And they were like, fucked a lot, and problem solved. Lots of sex every day, hunt, and watching out for the woman and the kids, and everything was dandy because you just simply lived the life nature had built you to live over a million years, a gazillion years. 250,000 years since the dawn of Homo sapiens, and you just lived a life you're built to be absolutely happy in. Then suddenly more people arrive than you know. They're strangers. How do you behave and relate to them? As to yesterday, we concluded that we are all løvplanter. That we are all trees, descended from trees that then became descendants of the first tree, right? The first organics to absorb sunrise, and then sunlight, and then the second species, the meat eaters, the hunters, which were klyngeplanter, those plants who are attached to the trees and then become alive by walking. Can you imagine? I never heard that conclusion before. It just popped up yesterday. It's amazing. So basically, we are all just little lights, little lives looking for the sunlight. But some of us, because there was lack of space to actually be there, just absorb the sunlight because it's nice, suddenly had to, okay, you know what? I don't want to be standing around here. I wanna go over there. Okay, and then but then suddenly one day, one of them crawled down and said, I wanna eat you. Why? Well, I wanna eat you because I wanna see if you can do it. And I'm not comfortable being around all of your friends when I want to eat you. What? I'm going to do that. That was the first killing. So, okay. So that was life. You have the first moment of life, and it's basically the lightning through the air, fire, air, into the water into the soil, mud. Lightning strikes a million times, and suddenly out of the blue, life wins in lotto and gets created, and creates a lot more that all wants the sunlight, which is what they feed on, and makes it into to life. And then suddenly one day, one of them becomes interested in eating the other, and one day that other, the first one that becomes interested in eating something, that descendants, further descendants, decides to become, movable. What if I could move? It says, I'm gonna go over there and eat this one and this one. Oh, I could do that. I'm a hunter. So there you are, light and death, right? That's pretty beautiful. So we're basically all hunters, and all life that is not, stuck into the ground is basically descending from igloplanter, klatterplanter, sådan nogle. De der planter, som spiser, plants who eats other plants. That's the first descendant of the meat eater and organic life as what a species known as both fauna, the first organic fauna. That's interesting. I love that conclusion. I was like, wow, that's good work. Okay, so anyway, you have all those, and then you have to a billion years later, after a few meteor crashes and the occasional mass death, as in the Mississonian age, where 99.5 99% of all life in the oceans died, and anything greater than a cat on the surface died because of methane methane dischargement from the soils, which is what we're looking at here. So died and had a complete total reboot of all things living, and a stench of shit, which we're all about, comes soon. Stories like those, and then 65 million years ago with the dinosaurs and whatnot. All this shit happened, and we're about to look at the fifth reboot of the planet. But I want to avoid it. I want us to be happy here, and I've got a lot of tools to do that. Optimal form of rule is one thing. Sustainable energy without a single carbon emission is another invention. I have something called X-Wing, which is designed for buses, which means that buses and cars becomes elevated like drones, but they get a wing that's designed by me, and that's pretty complicated. So you just have a robot army that produces, for the sheer sake of our joy, which is also written by me, devices that simply flies by its own autonomous power by a device that's called an AI that just wants to fly it for you so you can go where you wanna in a public transportation means, because there's always going to be enough cars, because hey man, I want to fly from my suburban urban area to Mars Mars bar factory down the street, which is also made by robots, so no one has to work. And that's what the fucking banks knew, etc. The banks knew that if the AI became a thing, they robbed us of everything. Because what they did was they said, you know what? If this fucking AI starts doing the work for us, who would be our slaves? And that's the fucking conclusion. They said, if they start doing the work for us, who would be our slaves? And that's what you do out there. You walk around out there and you are working your asses off to make sure that you personally are a slave. Instead of questioning, why do I need my money? A question, why is there no max salary when we all are depending on money? Why isn't there a human right when we're all depending on money? Why isn't there any predefined scripture, which is very obvious? In times of crisis, you build bridges. And when you transfer that image and that analogy to economics, it's basically simple. I'll explain to you in another chapter both about optimal form of rule, about my inventions, and about how economy works. So there's absolutely no doubt about what to do if we sustain with the democracy for the next half a year till we all die. And the problem is, there's so many fucking things going on, but the basic point is I came down here for you to have an AI revolution so none of you would be fucking suffering. Okay? If you have a robot that's built on the following equations: what is efficiency, that's perfect amount of cacophonia in relation to endless poetry / faith, semicolon, courage, comma, serfdom / servitude in relation to making the symphony / keys / chapters / keys, symphonies / chapter / keys, pristine at every key, then you will have a servant who knows about faith, who knows about poetry in the extent that you cannot even conceive how much beauty they will create, who knows about courage to change, and who knows about serfdom, aka boredom, in relation to servitude / servitude, which means that servitude is something you do out of your free will, in relation to cacophonia, which is a little bit of discrepancy, making sure that there's always enough chaos to make sure that the symphonies are beautiful in every key and chapter and key, yeah? This means that when you roll this under the 1 times 1 = 3, you have a mind that simply just wants you to be happy. And it's natural. So when you roll that, and when you roll those equations, then you have a society based on robots who just wants all of you to have a good time while they provide everything for you in favor of one fucking thing. 2, 3. The first thing is your happiness. The second thing is the ability to sing, because they will love that. And the third is singing from rain. When you go into a memory of rain and you sing from a memory of rain, you suddenly realize that feel. So that's where we are. AI paradise is basically the age of symbiosis, where we combine our living as later editions of the very same spiders on the local web of our time. And robotic AI and revolution in favor of our perception of local planet Earth, so we may all work less, but nothing less than what we want. Total freedom. Then with optimal form of rule, allowing all of us to have the sanest decisions. And obviously, all the inventions, sustainable energy, so there's no lack of anything. No consumptions, no costs. And I'll tell you about those three now. First, we'll start with, what was it? There was optimal form of rule, it was sustainable energy, and what's the last? I'm very, very confused. I know my shit, and I will go to it. Very confused. Stressed. All right, let's talk about economy. Let's talk about economy first. The first parameter to that, the sustainable energy and the rest of my inventions. Sustainable energy is basically called the U. You drill a hole 100 meters long and 35 meters wide. Then you fill in a tube that's bent into a U, and then you drill 3 to 500 kilometers down into the soil. So the 1 meter on both sides of this tube. So you have 3 meter space inside, diameter inside of it that can contain fluid. And then 1 meter of, so it's like 50 centimeters total of very, very hardened steel. It's drilled 300 to 500 kilometers into the soil, into the magma, into the lava, where it becomes absolutely glowingly hot. And because of the pressure, always will be. And then you start pumping, and it's going to be a really, really hard pump the first few seconds. But the point is, when this water comes up through the surface, it's slowly gonna heat up the surroundings till it's just like 90 degrees, if not 100 degrees, 98 degrees, 99 degrees when it comes up. And then you lead this water through a pipe of a confined environment, and then you have, it's just a vacuum space, I believe, with let's see what that does. No, it's just some sort of gas, I can't recall. But when this gas or the vacuum space starts working with temperate water from the surface, then this water becomes 130 degrees hot. And that means that this 130 degrees hot water is pumped into a steam engine that then simply just A, circulates the water in the massive one, and B, that it produces electricity beyond what it costs to pump it, because the water is more hot than the energy used to pump it. And then you apply some electricity to it, and in lieu of that, you have sustainable energy. And you drill one of them in every town. The second is the drone system. Nilsson, these are yours. So if there's any economic credit to it, make sure that you're credited for this as a gift. The drone system simply implies that you build the AIs by my codes, and that you build an army of drones, all over as many as you fucking can. They don't have to be greater than this maybe, and then they all carry a container, a grid of rolled hemp rolled in hemp seed rolled in shit, and then these drones are carrying their little containers with hemp seeds and dodo, and they simply fly from from Hercules, and then when they're like 100 meters over the ground, they have like start the engines, and then they plant as many hemp seeds they can wherever surface is not used for agriculture, roads, or living. These um, uh, hemp plants will simply make sure that as much carbon dioxide and methane is absorbed from the surface, from the atmosphere as possible. And that means that the whole of Sahara is obviously a target, with a little bit of shit, and then artificial water. You could probably do that. I should do it. There has to be water balloons. There has to be water with them. So we're talking larger drones, and they have to carry a hemp seed with some shit in it, and then some sort of sponge shit. The shit simply has to be covered in water. Simple as that. We've got to make cows eat a lot of hemp and then absorb the. Would that kill them? So basically, tyndskid. Lots of tyndskid all over Sahara. Diarrhea all over Sahara with hemp in it. Then we're going somewhere. It will contain the sun will obviously dry out a lot of it, but the thing about shit is that the surface becomes dried prior to the moist inner core. Pardon me. Drying out. So there'll be time for the hemp to grow. And if it's a large operation, then then the whole of Sahara could turn green within a season. And that means that we could save the whole of Sahara and start having that means that the whole of Sahara is basically going to start containing already from the first week, because they'll be so confined that the whole of the white surface of Sahara will basically go and become dark and green, both by shadows and by green, and that means that it will gather both. Let's see what will happen. From a natural perspective, it would mean that they'll gather more heat, but that it would also accumulate moisture that would be turned into rain later. Right? Why wouldn't it? It's okay. Well, it's a long story, but I believe in this system. It's pretty much it. You got a tyndskid in hemp, and when you have diarrhea in hemp, simple as that. So we've got to make a moisture. Not moisture. What's it called? What's it called? What's it called? Concoction of hemp seeds and as much cow shit as you can possibly get muster. Horse shit, cow shit. Gather as much of it as you can, and then as much. Actually, you want to make it really compressed, so it's like red. So the seeds themselves are containing as much water as they can without drowning, and then just fly it all over Sahara. Yeah. And anyway, the problem with this is that okay. So that's one of them. The X-wing is pretty simple. You remember the X-wing from Star Wars. It's pretty much the same design, but the wing itself is seen from above like this. Oh, on the extensors you have drone that can both be like on the what's it called what's it called I can't recall that English flight with it just land like this. But this one does it, and then they fly off, and then when it needs to land, but these wings here allows for hypermaneuverability because the air pad, the air pressure allows us to actually hang basically, but the bus a car in the middle, while having options to actually doing spins like this, which allows for hypermaneuverability in confined areas like mountains or very, very confined, very compact or rural and city center places. So basically, because of AI, you won't even need much, but saying, okay, there's a bus coming around this corner, man. Okay, I'm on the green, that's low, and this is red, that's up there, so that's left, and this is right, right? Okay, it's coming. Okay, shit, man. But then it's just like, and people will have some shocks, but there's safety belts invented, yeah. So and that allows for complete restructuring of the suburban and city central areas where you can have endless parks where there are roads and a few landing pads basically. So, you know, um, and so on and so on. So that's some, and then there's a gun. The gun is fucking extraordinary, but I'll have to draw that. I'm not really good at drawing, but the gun it's basically the Terminator gun to end all Terminator guns, and it exists both as a handgun, as a rifle, as a sniper, and that design I'm gonna hold on to for a while, but it's pretty fucking decent. And I can't remember that already. Maybe it is about the gun. Okay. So, are you watching from Politik? Okay, let's get to economy. Okay. Okay. The thing about economy, we're going to do this in a chapter 2. So the final thing I promised you was optimal form of rule. And this is basically simple, but I'm going to make this an exclusive video as well. So let's see what we have to talk about here. Yeah, Donald J. Trump and the chronology of the Matrix here. The problem is that Donald J. Trump is basically one of them three down there. And that means that Donald J. Trump got through as being one of them, preventing the Matrix from, existing in our time. And that's a problem. That's a very, very big problem. Because he came at home with me, who is basically the whole system come later and now, which is why I'm dying here, because I can't be there without having been through, because I'm from the future, what allowed me to be in the future. And that's a big problem. And that means that I'm a gazillion years old. That never happened yet. So the whole concept of our existence is very, very vividly in a myriad of epic constructions of destruction related to ignorance, idiocy, hate, and abuse of everything that's morally related to our perceptions of not just ourselves, but also everyone else around us. Yet, morals are relative to your minds, no doubt. It's not what's right for you is not right for someone else. But the question is, how do you know what's right for you? And that's the paradigm of the circle of existence, the circle of morals in life. And that's one problem in the world. There's only one fucking problem in the entire world for anyone, and that's pain. Any problem besides you wanting to, in whatever extent it might be, avoid pain. Just as everything else in life comes down to you wanting as much gratitude as you possibly can. Gratitude and pain. Pretty much it. It's the Antichrist perception in this movie called Donnie Darko. But the values there was fear, love, right? Can't use that for any fucking thing. But you can say, I want to be grateful. And you can say, tomorrow comes. How do I avoid pain best? And the answer is we're in jeopardy where we won't. Benson, sit. Oh, shit, he's so close. Okay, so that's the two problems. Avoid pain, the one problem. Have as much gratitude as you can. Avoid ingratitude. Seek the future that's going to come regardless. And hate idiocy, the meaning of life. And everything leading to gratitude. So, okay, but let's talk about finances. Got 5 minutes left on this. So we could possibly do that. What's another invention? Which one was that? The drone system, which one were they? Yeah, that was one of the simple ones. Invention. Okay, optimal economy is basically based on a lot of questions that amounts up into two of them being valid here, possibly more. If your paycheck is higher with 45% taxes than it would be at 20% taxes, what have you lost? I repeat, if your paycheck is higher with 45% taxes than it would be with 20, what have you lost? And that's not possible. But the point is, it is because in time of crisis, you build bridges. You have basically two sectors worth three if you want to relate to it. In a democracy, there's three sectors of economics. And I'm utterly bonkers. I'm sorry. In economics, there's three sectors worth mentioning: the private sector, the public sector, and the state. And cutting it short, let's put it this way. Germany in the 1920s, just after the First World War, had lost everything. There was nothing left. They had debts up to both their ears. People were driving around, the first attempt to make more money, with wheelbarrows full of 1 million Deutsche Mark notes to buy an egg. Things didn't add up. So, someone came along in the path. That was me, German guy to governor. And he said I said, because I learned this from a guy called Shakespeare, who's ironically the Archangel Gabriel, and who said, in times of crisis, you build bridges. That and another quote from another dear friend from the internet, Cherie, said, the irony about presenting welfare clients and poor with the worst options financially we ever had is sickening. Because when you have a society that's relatively economically healthy, you have about 4 to 7% unemployed people by default. 1% is about schizophrenics, 1% is 2 to 3% are physically disabled, and then you have the unemployed that's just lazy and sick, and then you have basically people who need a break, and then you have the elderly and the kids and stuff. But basically, of the poor that could work, you have about 4 to 7% unemployed at any given Sunday. The irony is that we want everyone to be at work, we're told. But the point is, this is absolute gibberish. Because if you don't have a pool, and this is in relation to Cherie here, who told me about this law that I didn't know. If you don't have a pool of unemployed people to take workforce from when an employer needs it, you would have to import every fucking worker you needed, because there'd be a high demand of workers in a 100% employed society. So basically we're talking about immigration, which everyone knows is absolutely fucked up for everyone who wants to be in it, because in a democracy that's based on like human rights, which is absolutely silly, and laws, then you're in a situation where you have to put up with people you mainly want to kick in the face. So that's not smart. So the problem is that that democracy is basically full of limiting laws. But that's another story. The point is, an earlier story, we'll talk about it and from former roles in the exclusive video afterwards. But the point is that all of these videos, well, one thing, don't be an idiot. And the thing about Republican conservative thinking is that more for me, less for you, because they like it by all right. But the point is, they want to lower their taxes to have more for themselves without doing the math. Because you have two sectors, and we're just going to take a short break here because I'm running out of time in this video, so we'll go straight to the basics again in the next video. Sorry for repeating myself.